What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Fame Ready, the podcast to show you that anything is possible. Yes, including fame. And despite all of the odds, honestly, because we're living in a dark time right now. And I think I have alluded to this on like all of my previous episodes. I feel like every time I go to record an episode, something new has unfolded in the news cycle. And I'm like, and here we are again. And I am constantly in not battle, but I'm constantly in conversation with myself around how do you continue to talk about things like becoming famous, making money, loving your life, feeling joyful? How do you continue to talk about those things when there's so much horror happening in the world? And when the future feels really uncertain. And it's something I've been sitting with because I have felt like it's been really hard to create content over the last couple days because the businesswoman in me wants to get online and sell my shit. And I just put down a major financial commitment for an event that I'm hosting in June. So selling, showing up, continuing to invest in my business, my vision, and all of those things really is a non-negotiable. Okay. I don't have a part-time job. I don't have a trust fund. I have a business loan that I'm in relationship with, constantly paying back. I this business, what I get to wake up and do every single day, it is a joy, it is a passion, but it also supports me and my family. And it's been tough to show up and channel this excitement and vision and visibility, knowing that there are so many people hurting, but also knowing that there is this relenting pressure for each and every one of us who has a personal brand or any semblance of a platform to like show up, have an opinion, make a statement, and all of that. And I like fully condemn everything that is happening, the horrific things that are happening, people getting killed unnecessarily, the violence, it's got to stop. But you know what's really interesting? Not but. And you know what's really interesting? It's interesting to be a Canadian living in Canada during this time and seeing all of that horror, violence, all of those things happening just south of us. Obviously I have lots of friends, clients, colleagues. I do a lot of business in the States. I spend a lot of time in the US. And then I'm also not like so blind to the fact that, if that's the kind of thing that's happening there, that stuff can also happen here. We're not immune. But then at the same time, the thing that I feel like I don't really see any Canadian business owners talking about is the very real fear that actually lives inside of me every day. Okay. This fear around, well, what is going to happen to us? Are we going to go to war? Are we going to get annexed? Are we going to have insane tariffs placed on our country's goods and services that will absolutely devastate our economy that is already so weak? I don't know. I don't know. And despite all of those fears that can make it really, really easy to not invest, not plan for the future, not make big moves, not take big risks, despite all of those things, it is my responsibility as a business owner and as someone who has built a brand on this idea that anything is possible. Well, I have a responsibility to be a leader. So, why am I sharing all of this and what the heck is the stream of consciousness? I'm in a weird headspace today as I record this because I'm feeling a lot of joy and lightness and excitement around the things that I'm working on in my business. Okay. I'm feeling excited about this event, Big Brand Energy Live, that is happening in June. The date is Thursday, June 11th. It is happening at the Civic Hotel in Surrey, gorgeous autograph collection hotel that I cannot believe that I have the ability to book that kind of venue for an event like this. I have incredible sponsors coming on board. We've sold so many tickets already by the time this episode has come out. So it's been really weird and confusing and uncomfortable to be like holding on this excitement while simultaneously feeling like we can't really talk about it because of all of the terrible things that are happening. And I am just at a point now where, this is the hard part about growing a personal brand and having a platform. And there are people that will choose to like have a platform in quotation marks because that's what they think is going to get them the next speaking gig, media opportunity, podcast interview. But then there are the people that have a platform because they are truly becoming like well known for the impacts that they have. And I live in that camp. Okay. I don't just like have an Instagram account. I'm creating an entire legacy built around this idea that anything is possible. You, as a business owner, can create anything you want to, despite everything that is going on, despite all odds, despite all the negativity that either lives around you externally, but also inside your brain. You can do it. But it is not going to be easy. And I guess you have a choice. You can continue to like make your posts that like promote your shit without never like truly leaning into your voice and trusting your voice. Or you can stand up and feel confident in your voice and trust your words and trust that, when you're approaching your content, how you speak, your personal brand, when you're approaching it from a place of like, this is what I truly believe, this is what's true for me. If someone doesn't like it, if it makes someone feel a certain way, regardless of their feelings, it is still true for me. That's who this podcast is for. It's who my platform's for. That's who my events are for. And yeah. So, I was originally going to come to this podcast episode with some sort of like strategy for X, Y, and Z, but I don't really want to today because I've been dropping a lot of strategy lately, a lot of strategy, but your strategy is nothing if you don't actually have the confidence, the self leadership, the self trust to actually just use your voice when there is no strategy. And I'm not sharing this because I think I'm like the perfect poster child example of this. I'm actually saying this because I'm not. Because for this entire week, I felt like it was so hard to create content. And any like content idea I had felt so fucking stupid because of like what is going on in the world. But at the same time, I'm like, but I'm also running a business and, business doesn't stop right now. But I mean, it does if you wanted to, but financially, that's not a decision I get to make right now. So I today had to just free myself from my own, lack of a better word, muzzle. Okay. Because I have been like seeing the rhetoric online, like people need to take a stand. You need to, the people that are silent, we're taking notes, like shit that people say because they want each and every person to stand up and like share their opinion out loud. And I share this because like that's a, I, th- I think it's a lot of like American accounts and American personal brands. And, that's a lot of the American content that I consume. And actually, up until this point in my life, I never really felt like that different from an American. And, I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but like, yeah, I think like for a lot of us growing up in Canada, it's like, traveling to the US, consuming US culture, consuming US products has been such a normal part of our life for as long as we can remember. So, I've never really felt different from my American friends, my American clients. Like it's always just been very the same, especially working in PR and media. Like it is just so American. But as a Canadian, when we've had some things recently threatened, our freedom, our country, you know, implications that could have like a drastic effect on our economy with our very small population that is less than the size of the state of California, like it feels weird. And I mean, I get some flack for continuing to travel to the US, for continuing to support US events, supporting US clients. And that is something that I wholeheartedly will continue to do, because had I not, in the last 12 months, invested in traveling to the US, going to US events, expanding my network, my business as it is right now would not have grown to its current place. It would not have probably survived and then thrived in the way that it has. And this is how I choose to run my business, but I'm just holding the dichotomy of a lot of different things right now. I don't even know if that was a succinct point, but like these are just all the things that I'm feeling. Okay. And so, what's interesting, because like I've been a bit grumpy for the past couple weeks. And sure, I think some of that is hormonal. I mean, no, it definitely is, given where I'm at in my cycle. But I think some of that is like the collective energy of just feeling scared, uncomfortable, frustrated, and all of those things. So I've been feeling a bit grumpy. And that grumpiness has nudged me to put in stronger boundaries around my business. And earlier this week, I released an essay in my LinkedIn editorial that was about like holding boundaries and visibility, because I think that that's really important. Okay. So people often ask me, like, Katrina, like, how do you balance how much personal content you share in your personal brand? And I think if you've listened to this podcast before, you'll know that I frequently say, like, if it doesn't link to your business initiatives, you don't have to share it. So, for example, if you're a mom, but you really don't want to share your kids, if your business isn't built around motherhood and the experience as a mother and all of those things, you 100% do not have to make that part of your content. You don't have to make it part of your personal brand. You never have to talk about it. And I think what I believe, my opinion from a political standpoint, that is also true. I think, like, there is so much volatility when it comes to politics right now. And I can appreciate what's happening in the US actually isn't even political at this point. It's a humanitarian crisis. Um, so if a client comes to me and is like, do I need to share my political views online? I don't think that you do. But I do believe that if you are going to be an impactful personal brand, you do have to be able to speak about what's happening outside of you and like choose how that's going to reflect and continuously reflect your brand. So today, what I did is I put out this statement on Instagram, and like I say the word statement, and it's like white text on a black background. Like it's so like, you know, polarizing or like, this big deal. It's not, but it was a big deal for me because I didn't really know how people were going to react. I mean, it's not a political post and it's not meant to be, but it is essentially me drawing the line in the sand of like, this is how I feel about what's going on right now. And this is why I'm going to continue to show up for my business. And you can go to my Instagram and read the post. Like you'll find it right away if you haven't seen it already. It definitely stands out. The sentiment is that this whole business, I mean, even this podcast, this is the podcast that shows you that anything is possible. I have to believe that anything being possible is under positive circumstances. Like when I say that anything is possible, it is through the lens of positivity and joy and excitement. It's not through this like anything is possible, we can go to war. Anything is possible, we can like our entire like world and economy and business functions as we know it can literally just fall to the ground. Like there's that. That's a possibility. Anything is possible. Obviously, all things can be true at once, but in my brand, the possibility has to come from this place of like, I'm going to continue to show up like it's best case scenario, even though I'm holding space and empathy and love and support for all of the terrible things that are happening in this world right now and all of the people that are hurting so much, it is in my best interest and in the best interest of my clients who do this work as well to continue to show up for the individual mission that each and every one of them has. Because if I continue to show up in this mission, if I continue to believe that anything is possible and this will all work out in the end, then that's authentic to me. That's a hard stance to hold when times get tough. And I don't know that a lot of people would like buy into a mission like that if that was their own, especially at a time like this. But it's what I know I have been put on this earth to do, to communicate, to share, to champion. And so, as hard as it is, I will continue to do so. You know, like I'm so it's hard, right? Because, it's January 27th and I've had an incredible couple weeks of business. And I'm like, wow, 2026 is going to be amazing. But at the same time, 2026, from a worldview, off to a really horrible start. And what a weird dichotomy to like be caught up in. So if I've been a bit grumpy lately, that's kind of why I think I've been navigating like my own feelings around all of this. And then at the same time, like building this like highly visible personal brand where there are opportunities for people to get involved in what I'm building. Like that also leaves me feeling a little raw and exposed in a different way. The thing that like kind of sent me over the edge, to be so transparent, in the past couple of weeks, I've been getting a lot of pitches, like people pitching to speak at Big Brand Energy when like they don't even know what the event is like. People pitching to be on this podcast when it's very evident that I actually just don't have guests on this podcast. If you were to listen to that, you'd know. People who have barely spoken to me in months, wanting an introduction to certain people that I know or brand partners. People, I don't know, just the whole thing. It's my inbox on any given day is full to the brim of pitches. And you know me, like I'm out. I mean, I literally do this for a living. I teach people how to pitch, right? And now more than ever, I'm realizing just how important the way that I do it, the way that I teach all of my clients to do it, it's fucking better. Okay? It's fucking better than whatever you're doing right now that is not in relationship with the person that you're pitching. You know what? I'm going to take a really hard stance right now. I didn't even know that I was going to go here. I'm going to take a really hard stance right now. This is not a time for cold pitching. This is a time to be in relationship with the people around you. This is the time to actually like care about getting to know people. It's about, before you pitch to speak at an event, go to the event. Don't just ask to be involved when there hasn't been any other form of support for the person running it. And I say this like from an event coordinator's perspective. The amount of financial risk, okay, that goes into putting on a large scale event, the amount of weight that I carry as someone who now has to market this thing. It is a full-time job to market, plan it, make it awesome, all of that. The absolute 150% best thing that you can do if you want to be involved in this big brand energy legacy is buy a ticket and show up or be a sponsor. There are sponsorship opportunities available too. So shout out to those of you listening to this that have come on board as a sponsor. Don't pitch. Don't send a pitch right now. I'm literally like one pitch away from having a full meltdown. Okay. And I think it's because of this climate where we're in, where it's like everything feels so disposable. And hey, the funny, not funny part of this is like celebrities, okay, for ages, for years, as long as celebrities have existed, they've told us this, right? They've said like, oh, like the the more popular I got as a celebrity, the more it just felt like people wanted something from me, and it was very, very hard to know, like, who's legit, who really wants to be my friend, or who just wants to align themselves with me for their own selfish purposes. And God, I feel that. I feel that. And I think in this essay that I wrote on LinkedIn, that really is like the next step of like a visibility block. Okay. So when I start working with clients that are early into their like visibility journey, the visibility blocks all kind of look the same. Okay. There's like this kind of fear of just like being seen. So a lot of people that start working with me, they don't have a social media presence or they have a minimal one. They haven't ever really shown up in a way where they're sharing more about themselves as a person. They are posting content more consistently. They're posting their own perspectives, their own points of view and opinions. There's all of that. And that's really hard. That's like probably like the initial visibility block. Okay. Then some of the other kind of early stage visibility blocks include like um, this fear of like going all in. So a lot of the time, like people are like, I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to like, create this personal brand on one specific like talking point thing, etc. And then that's all I'm known for. If that's how you're building your personal brand, um, you're not doing it in a way that actually serves you. Your personal brand is meant to design to your personal brand is designed to evolve with you as your perspectives, your industry, your skill set, as all of those things change, your personal brand is actually the one thing that changes with you. So go all in. Go all in into the thing that really lights you up right now without this fear that it's the thing you have to do for the rest of your life, because your personal brand actually enables you to make it like a stepping stone and it just becomes part of your story. So that's kind of like the other early stage visibility block, right? It's this fear of like getting put in a box, fear of niching down, all of that. And I think there's one more, like, this fear of failing in public. Okay. So I have a lot of clients who start posting on like LinkedIn for the first time, and engagement is different on LinkedIn. It looks different. If you're someone who's used to getting a lot of like likes, comments, engagement on a platform like Instagram, it can be challenging to like struggle with the fact that LinkedIn generally isn't like that, especially when you're first starting out. So there's this fear of like failing in public. Whereas, like, what if I start to post and share my perspectives and nobody engages and likes and nobody listens? I'm going to feel like a failure. Or when it comes to events, there's also a fear of failing, right? Like, what if I host this event and nobody comes? Failing in public. Oh man, that's a tough one. So those are like really early stage visibility blocks that, like, when someone decides that they're going to start working on their personal brand, those are kind of like the first things that they overcome. Okay. So like those are kind of the first things, like, even for me as I'm writing my book, which I can't wait to share more of that with you guys. It's gonna come out in October 2026. That book is gonna talk a lot about these early stage visibility blocks. Okay. But it's really interesting now because now I'm in this like those blocks also like still come up, right? So like they like still come up, but now I know how to manage them. I know how to manage my mindset around them, how to talk about them, etc. Now I'm dealing with a different kind of visibility block, which is this like concept around like boundaries. So, how much do you like let someone in? How much do you actually like share with someone who maybe isn't paying you to be a client? How much time do you spend with people who, may just be trying to fish for information? And that's been hard because I've had to say no to invitations. I've turned people away. I've been invited to maybe like go for coffee and I've turned it down. And I always battle with the idea, like, does that make me a bad person? No, it doesn't. the people pleaser in me who wants everyone to like me and understand me, she feels like a bad person. But I know that, like, as a personal brand, especially as someone who's like doing these bigger and bigger initiatives, like my energy is my most valuable resource. So I've had to cut back on a lot of different things that I used to be able to spend more time doing, going for coffee, going for dinner, going to more networking events, doing virtual networking. There's a lot of things that just aren't right for me at this certain stage of business. Another kind of advanced visibility block is this intellectual property, seeing people use concepts, frameworks, language, messaging, lots of different things, and maybe being inspired by me. But I interpret it, or my nervous system certainly interprets it as copying. I mean, even just the other day, I saw someone who basically like the post was so similar to a post I did a month ago, and it's someone that I know follows me, I know looks at my content, and I was just like that feels like a gut punch because anytime I've maybe consciously or subconsciously felt like something I've said or created is similar to something somebody else has done, I've always attributed it. I've always kind of given someone sideline credit. I always, always, always try to give people credit where credit is due, because I know that that's what I want. So that's a tough one. It's a really tough one. Being copied. I posted a thread about this like last month, I think. And it's one way to look at it. This isn't going to resonate for everyone, but I'll share it with you. So, like, there are times if I'm seeing my work being copied, or like if I'm like, oh, clearly that person looked at something that I have and it inspired this post. I try to tell myself, look at the Taylor Swifts of the world, Sabrina Carpenters, all of the biggest celebrities, pop stars, all of that. There are people who like will literally like dress up and impersonate them, and they will sing their songs and they will sometimes even sell tickets to be an impersonator. And that's just like one really extreme part of it. Then like think about their fandom, where their fandom wants to kind of dress like them or talk like them, or there's different elements that like fandom kind of copy or inspire. And so that's a different take. So when I try to just zoom all the way out and be like, okay, this person's clearly copied me or been inspired by something that I've posted, I try to say, Katrina, you have a fan. You want to be famous? Well, this is part of it, babe. You've got a fan and you've inspired them and life goes on. And yeah, that really like doesn't make it suck any less, honestly. But it is a reframe that helps me kind of put myself back in the professional box. Okay. Because this is literally what I do. So that helps me kind of like get myself back in the like, right, this is the function of my business. So there's that. And then there's this other like weird thing where, and this is like a weird one to talk about, but I we're talking about like these advanced kind of visibility blocks. And if I don't mention it, I mean, I'd be doing myself and everyone a disservice just because it's a really uncomfortable one for me. When you grow a personal brand and you're visible and you have lots of business owner friends and people that want to brainstorm with you and people that are championing you, there is a piece of relationship that does shift, because I find sometimes a lot of my conversations with other business owner friends, all of a sudden turns into me like doing a little bit of coaching. And that has had me kind of like, I love to put things in boxes. I don't like gray area. I like when things are like black and white and I can say, you're a client, so you go in the client box. That enables me to like, I have my own boundaries on how I communicate with clients, what that looks like, what the timing is like. But as soon as that's blurry, because maybe someone's a friend, there's no clear definitions, right? Maybe it's on me to define that, but that's hard too because, if I talked on the phone and phone called and spoke to every single person that like has something that they want to share with me this week, I would get nothing done. And I've just had to kind of put that boundary in place as well, where I'm like, is this something that serves me? No. Is it something that serves my business, my family, someone that I like truly, truly consider a friend? Also, no. Then it's something that I will have to hold a boundary around, but that's also not easy, right? And then on the flip side, I think there's some friends that I do this really well with, where we're all very conscious of each other's boundaries. And so we try to equally give and receive. And I think that's really beautiful. But that takes a higher consciousness level. And that I honestly think, as people kind of advance through their visibility blocks, if you're on this kind of like same level of visibility blocks, and like, I think about some of my friends who also run events and work with sponsors and, have a lot of different assets and things that people want to be involved in. Those are the friends that actually are probably listening to this and fully getting it and like hearing it and being like, and I think that's what makes really good business friends, because we can like equally say like, hey, quick question, if only if you have time to answer this, or hey, like thank you so much for doing this for me, I'd love to treat you to this. Like all of my best business friendships include like reciprocity, and that's really cool. But I think having that on one hand makes it really then easy to know where it maybe doesn't exist on the other hand, right? So that's that. So those are kind of the visibility blocks where maybe if you're someone who's early into personal branding, you're like, holy shit, I'm just trying to get through the first few. And you don't even know that the journey, there's just more. It's like, when you're trying to climb to like the top of a mountain, and like maybe like the first section is a certain kind of terrain and it feels challenging, but then you achieve it and you're like, yes. But then now you're at this like second part of this mountain trail where the terrain is a little bit different, and maybe it's steeper, and maybe it requires you to move your body in a certain way. And then that feels different. And it doesn't even matter that you've just overcome that first section, because the second section requires a different skill set and a different level of energy and a different level of physicality. That's kind of what the personal brand building visibility journey really is. It's an ongoing battle. It's not for everybody. And I knew that going into it. But I think, when I look at my life, when I was in my corporate career for 10 years, that really was like, it felt so safe. Like it felt so easy to just like go to work, do a good job, come home, get your salary. You didn't have to worry about like, putting anything else on the line. Like it's comfortable. But I'm not at a place in my life where comfort is the priority. Whereas, and like, let's just say I live a very, very comfortable life like I do. But what I do in business right now, how I run my business right now, it's a different kind of discomfort. It's a different kind of challenge. It requires a different level of self-care, of managing mindset, of like navigating my own thoughts and feelings, as well as all of those around me. So it's different. And people say like entrepreneurship. Actually, I saw a really funny reel today. I wish I saved it. Someone had shared it. It was a girl who was basically like, forget therapy. Like, if you just want like an IV drip of personal development, that's what being a business owner is. And I was like, yeah, like you are forced to come up against every single edge and navigate it and make it not feel so edgy. And once you kind of knock down one wall, guess what? There's another taller, thicker, more challenging wall to break through. But that breakthrough is what makes the journey so gratifying and so worth it. And at the same time, as you do that, you are showing everybody else who is inspired by you that they can do it too. And so that really brings me full circle, you guys, because, you know, if I'm holding this really positive, exciting vision, let's fast forward 6 months where my big brand energy event is over and it was the best fucking thing I've ever done. And it was so gratifying, so successful, so exciting, so perfect in its own way. That moment is going to show everybody else who's watching, my community, my clients, my friends, my family, my colleagues. That moment is going to show everyone what it's like to hold a vision, to trust yourself, to continue to just co-create with the universe. And when you do that, when you consistently show up for yourself and what you believe is right and true for you, it all works out in the end. And that is what I'm fucking determined to show you, because I know shit is scary right now. I do. Like, it's scary. It feels uncertain. It's really hard to plan long term. There are many nights I've had to tell myself, Katrina, get the fuck off your phone. I'm like back into reading books. And now actually I'm back into reading fiction books, if you can believe it. I generally don't read a lot of fiction. Only because I'd rather read like mindset, personal development, entrepreneurship. But I'm needing a different kind of distraction. So I'm like, I actually love, there's a very unique genre that I like. It's like MLM. Like, I love reading fiction or even just like nonfiction about like multi-level marketing culture. So there's this book, it's called Hey Hun by Emily Lynn Paulson. So I read that book a couple years ago. I have it on my shelf, and such a good book. And I think that's actually like a nonfiction or like kind of loosely based on the true story. And so now I'm reading a book right now called Death in the Downline, and it's like a fiction murder mystery about like a fictionalized like beauty network marketing company. And that has sucked me in. And that's where I'm at right now. It's gotten so bad that I'm reading fiction books about multi-level marketing. But I say this just because, like, keep following the people, keep listening to the people that inspire you, that keep you in the right headspace, that show you what's possible for yourself, because they're leading by example. And in doing so, you're a leader too. So with that, we're going to leave it here. Feels weird to say, but if you like this episode, please rate and review this episode. Please give it a 5-star review. That would absolutely make my day. You can follow me over at Katrina Owens PR if you're not already. You can follow the podcast at Get Fame Ready. I'll link by the time this episode comes out, Big Brand Energy tickets will not technically be publicly available yet, but you know what? I would love to just treat all of y'all listening. If you're not on the event wait list, but you want early access to tickets, that link is in the show notes, because, hey, you made it through this entire episode. That means you're my kind of people, and that means you should probably be in the room in June. Okay. Thanks so much, you guys. Thanks for giving me the space. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being in my corner. And I'll see y'all next week. Toodles.